Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. I'm hanging out with Staci Gustiuc. Yeah, try and say that one by looking at her name. I'm so excited to chat with her. She's got an amazing story, and we're just going to jump right in and start telling you guys. So welcome to the podcast, Staci. I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks. I'm so happy that you're having me. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Yay! Okay, so start by telling us about your home life situation, how many kids you have, what a day in the life is kind of like.
Okay, so I am a mom to one, and actually in a few short weeks, she's going to be 7. So right now my day is like, what are we doing for her birthday? Trying to plan all of that. And I've been married for about 4.5 years, and my husband is not her father. So we're a little bit of a blended family. And my husband actually works away. And so many people, when I tell them that, they're like, oh, how'd you get so lucky? And I'm like, oh, I never realized that this is like a great thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's gone like a few weeks at a time, and then he comes back for a week and then goes out for a few weeks. And it was an adjustment at first, but I do kind of like it.
Yeah. You kind of get like the honeymoon phase every month. Like you're like, I miss you. And then you're together and everything's grand. But I have heard that sometimes that's hard because you get in your little mode of life and then they kind of interrupt it. And so you're like totally thrown for a loop for a week and you're like, just got to get back to normal. But this is our normal.
Yes, and I've totally been guilty of saying that. And probably not long ago, I was like, oh my God, you're here for a week, and I feel like my schedule is totally gone. Because, you're like, okay, I want us to spend time together and do things, but I still do have work. And then, like, my daughter still has all her school activities and extracurricular activities. So it is trying to find that balance for, our normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before this normal, you had a different normal, which was pretty not normal, in that you were a single mom. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and some of the things that you've kind of experienced to get to where you are right now.
Yeah, I was a single mom for a little bit over 2 years. I left my daughter's father when she was about 4.5 months old. We just had an unhealthy relationship. There wasn't trust and things like that. Monogamy was not something like he was really good at. And I put up with that for about 5 years. Oh, man. But after having a kid, it just was like, I just don't think I can be dealing with that anymore. Because while she's a baby, she can't really tell the difference. And, I think they get vibes, but I was more concerned about when she got a little bit older, what those arguments were going to look like to her and how that was going to come off and what she would view, like what her thoughts about relationships were going to be and what would be acceptable and what would not be. Right. So that just played out in my mind a lot. And I was like, I can put myself through a lot. I really am willing to do be in a lot of not so great situations, but I wasn't willing to put her in those.
Yeah.
I had kind of grown tired of that.
Well, yeah, and it kind of puts a different perspective on things where I love exactly what you said. Right now, she might not know, but I think a lot of times we just think, it'll get better, and we keep waiting for it to get better, but you can't when you have a child at stake, like you really shouldn't. I know a lot of people do. I know it's a really scary place to be in, to put yourself in an even more uncomfortable situation. But it's paid off a lot. Like now she's out of that situation, even though you had to struggle through that. And it was probably horrible to go through the whole separation of it, but she's eons ahead of where she would be had she grown up witnessing a really unhealthy relationship. And I think that's what I wish more people saw, is that they think they're holding it together. And I'm not saying like every situation, everybody should get divorced. I have to be really careful how I say that. It's just when you're in an unhealthy situation, if there's abuse or if there's things going on in the marriage that shouldn't be happening, you're kind of perpetuating that unhealthy dynamic to your kids. And you have to be super aware of that.
Yeah. And like you said, there are things like chances and stuff like that and conversations to be had before you just like abruptly leave. And we had numerous discussions like that. And actually, I do remember sitting down with him while I was pregnant and kind of saying, hey, I know we've had a rough road, and I really feel like we really need to make more of an effort, and I really need to be able to trust you.
Yeah.
And, this has to be a family thing, and a family is you and I and our child. It doesn't involve any other females. That's what a family means to me. And if you're incapable of giving that to us, I'm going to leave. And of course, the conversation went over like, oh, yes, that sounded like a great plan, but I knew that time would tell. And you just don't build trust back quickly. I'm not going to say that it never can be restored, but I never had good luck in that area. And I kind of just turned into this detective, honestly. Would have been a really good private investigator at that time of my life.
I'm sure you still will be if you wanted to be.
Right? So, I was like, I can't live my life like that. I was just miserable. Yeah. I don't want to feel the need to look through your phone or things like that. And then when I did get involved with my husband, I was like, wow. I knew that I wanted something different and I wanted to be treated well. But I did not. It's amazing when you get more than what you expected was possible. And when you really get to see how you really should be treated, it really is like, wow, it was hard to leave. It was really hard to put that relationship behind me because I did feel like I was tearing my family apart because I didn't just move across the street, or I didn't even move in the same town. I moved like 7.5 hours away, whole nother state. That's a lot of distance. And that really does change the dynamic that my daughter and her father were able to have. Yeah. Because you can't really have that every weekend or every other weekend visitation. It's just really expensive, and you're only getting like one day. Right. Because they got to go back to school because I wasn't homeschooling. So it was difficult, and I think that was hard for me to know that their relationship was going to suffer a little bit in that. But we came up with an agreement that we tried to work out for her benefit. And we did. I think that we did the best that we could for where we were at those times, and we both needed to grow a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I admire you for taking those hard steps, because I know that you couldn't be happy right now if you had kind of stayed, and if you had kept waiting and waiting for happiness to come. I think a lot of us in various situations just think, oh, it's just going to happen. Like, if I just wait it out, it's like, I just watched La La Land again last night, and when Ryan Gosling is saying something like, I'm just letting life beat me down. I'm letting it have a whack at me so that then I can rise above, like I'm a phoenix. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a fun perspective. You're just kind of paying your dues. But there's a limit there where you have to kind of grab life yourself, and you can't let it keep beating you down, and you have to take control. So I admire you for doing that a long time ago so that you could kind of have the life that you have now, which is not immune from struggle. It's not a hopeless situation. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, there's different variations of struggle.
Exactly. So what was the struggle like as a single parent, and what did you do with yourself as you were kind of navigating that territory?
I'll be honest, I was still lost. I just did not have it together in the relationship department, to be completely honest. I did not really know how to navigate that, and I just didn't have a lot of self-worth. And when you don't have self-worth, you put yourself in not so great situations. So I didn't really have like a lot of good boundaries and things like that. So relationships weren't really my strong suit. But I felt like it's hard to be the one that has to do everything. So for the first year, I was able to stay home with my daughter, and I know that's not very common for a single mom. Yeah. And it just happened like this. I guess this is like shows you where you can go from what to what. So when I was on maternity leave and actually still in that relationship, my position at work, it was like a really shady thing, and I lost my position. And so I had to fight for unemployment. And my daughter, to top all this off, my daughter was born at 29 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I was actually planning to work up until I had her. I just didn't realize I would only be 7 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So it really threw a lot of things off, like financially speaking for me. And when I wasn't going to go back to my same position that was a good schedule and all of that stuff, I really felt like everything was falling apart. So when I moved, I had to move. I moved 7 hours away for 2 reasons. I knew that I needed to get enough space between us so that I wouldn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a safe place to really get my feet on the ground. And that space was to go where my mom was. And my mom was 7.5 hours away.
Oh, I love it.
So
that's what moms are there for.
Yeah. And I literally, like my daughter and I, no lie, slept on her couch for 4 months until we moved into an apartment that had 2 bedrooms. And then my daughter and I shared a room. So it was not like a glorious thing. It was really rough.
Yeah.
And I fought for my unemployment for 3 months. Okay. 3 months.
Wow.
And it was so rough. So I did stay at home. I couldn't really find a job that was going to allow me to just do more than pay for daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed at home the first year living with my mom. And I was finishing up some classes from Arkansas online. So I was still going to school. And then after that semester, I enrolled in the college here and began going full time. So after that, I was really craving some, like, I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to meet adults and have adult conversations. And that's really when things, began to, I guess, form for me. I was able to meet friends, and I met different kinds of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Friends that had goals, friends that had more boundaries and kind of knew more of where they wanted their life to be. They had a view of the future.
Right.
And they were taking action then to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I love it.
I didn't always associate myself with people like that because I wasn't one of those people for a while.
Yeah.
And you hang out with what you feel like you are.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And
you're the average of
I
the
see
5
a big
people.
difference. Yes. My mom used to tell me that, but she had like a different wording, but I always thought it was not true.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that it very much is. So that's really when things started to, I became a full-time college student. I was a full-time single mom. I was a full-time employee.
Wow.
It was a lot. I mean, it even meant my daughter, because I was a server, and a lot of times the money is just in the night shift. The lunches usually aren't that great, most places. I mean, my daughter was going to daycare at night. She was the only kid there.
Wow.
It was not easy.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun, but it sounds really empowering. Like you completely 100% took control of your life. Like you went from a very unhealthy situation to one that was not necessarily like trimmed with gold, but it empowered you and like it forced you into a new way of thinking, and it helped you to find those connections that I'm sure inevitably are the reason that you've been able to do even more with your life. Because I've witnessed that, like having a mentor or just somebody who pushes you to be better, or several people who push you to be better, is so much more powerful than any book or anything like that, because you're constantly rising to the top instead of sitting.
You're getting that personal, I'm all for a good book, don't get me wrong.
Of course.
I like to read. But there is just something different about that one-on-one, like talking to someone and them sharing their story with you personally, because we can tell the same story per se, like the storyline is the same, but we don't tell it the same way any one time.
Right.
And I believe that it comes out the way that it's supposed to for the other person.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah. And so it benefits. It has huge benefits.
It definitely does. So what are you doing now then? I know that, okay, so did you finish your degree yet?
I did.
That's
December
so cool.
of 2015, I got my bachelor's degree.
So exciting. And what are you doing with it now?
I'm a life coach.
I love it.
Not what I thought I was going to be doing.
We rarely do what we thought we're going to do.
And honestly, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was one of those people who went through college, and I was like, I don't know. I'm going to graduate, and I don't know what's going to happen after that. And when I started looking into different things, like I thought I would help like underserved populations or kids or addicts or something like that.
Yeah.
And when I started looking into it, the schedule really was not ideal for like mom life. I didn't want to be on call, and I didn't want to have to go into places that probably weren't very safe by myself.
Right.
And so I was like, well, that's not going to really work out. And I was kind of bummed about it, but I had a mentor, and I don't even think like our relationship started as her being a mentor, but she actually was the owner of the restaurant that I worked for. She was his wife, so technically an owner too. But she just was nice and interested. What did I do? What was I going to school for? And it just turned out we had things in common. And so she just kind of took me under her wing. And I remember her asking me after graduation how I felt. Was I excited? And I said, yeah, I'm excited. I accomplished a big goal. At one time, I didn't even think I would even be able to do that. I'm a first-generation college graduate. So
that's awesome.
It was a big thing. I said, but I'm kind of thrown off by how not good I feel.
Yeah. I
feel really lost. Like school was something I knew how to do, and I had been doing it for 10 years.
Ugh.
So
now
it's
what?
weird not having it. Yeah, it's like I got used to it,
Right.
And she was like, well, I really want to encourage you to take this time to figure things out. She's like, you might not have this space again to really, for it to really be okay for you to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, that's so true.
So I really took that to heart, and it really helped me. And then one day I just stumbled upon, I was online, and I don't even remember how, life coaching or coaching, something, I seen it and I clicked. And I started reading, and then I was like, I got to look more into this. This sounds very intriguing. And I don't even think it was a week later, I told my husband, I figured out what it is I'm supposed to do with my life, and I want to hire a business coach, and this is the investment that it would be. And I was scared to tell him because it was a lot of money.
He's like, wait, you just went to school.
Oh, yeah, that's all I was thinking. I was like, he's going to be like, okay, so we paid for this degree, and that's not enough. But he was very on board with it, and his reaction was, I'm glad you figured out what you want to do, because I really struggled with knowing that. And I went right into a program because I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that my degree was in psychology and I wanted to help people, and I had a long history of trials and tribulations and overcoming, and I could use it all.
Right. Yeah. It's a perfect way to use it without, I've had a lot of people on here who are coaches in different, areas, and they love, like Randy Rubenstein. She's not severely in the camp of like being a therapist, but she's also, she's got enough training that she could be, but she's also like a little bit more loose with the way that she wants to do it. So instead of like having to stick to like being a clinical therapist or whatnot, she can do kind of what feels natural to her. And I think Shannon Chabot is the same way. But I love that because you're not beholden to that set of, like you said, that schedule or that lifestyle. You can kind of incorporate that into any lifestyle while still helping people and using all of your training. And that's what's awesome about mentoring, coaching of any kind. You're passing the torch kind of what you've been through, and you're able to help so many people. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that's the whole point. I always wanted to just help people, and I really believe when we can give like the little things that we've learned, I think we kind of discredit them and they don't feel like things because they're just so natural or they've become common knowledge to us. But we really are doing a disservice to other people because there's a lot of people who haven't learned that or haven't gotten to that space in their life. And if we can just share to help them on their journey, they are responsible for creating what they want, but you can go alongside someone else and they kind of help you be accountable, and by sharing what they've been through, kind of empower you to do that. And I really think that's where a lot of our joy comes from, is sharing with other people, not to be focused, to really turn it the other way and say, okay, how can I benefit other people? And that's really when like the rewards come in. It's a win-win.
It totally is. It's something that's kind of like, it's not hard to explain. It's hard to fully comprehend, though, until you've done it. I'm in like a position right now where I'm leading a whole bunch of women in a company, and it's so rewarding. And I tell them this all the time. It's more rewarding for me to see them have success and to see them, for example, it's like a makeup company. And so for them to share that their win is to make another woman feel beautiful, I'm like, okay, so you just felt awesome and you made somebody else feel awesome who's going to in turn continue this amazing ripple effect. And that is the most rewarding thing at the end of the day. Not even like the money or the financial gain or anything like that. It's the way that we make people feel and how we serve them and how we pay it forward. And yeah, I think that's honestly, I think if people can grasp that feeling, it really just proves that like service is the best way to get out of your way. And when you can do that in your business and your life, what better way to live your life?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think you just broke it down perfectly. And it can seem, I think that was one of the things I was the most nervous about was people would ask me. So I went from being a server to being like basically a bartender on wheels at a private country club after I had this degree. And because I couldn't figure out what I was going to do. So I was like, I'm just going to stay here for now. And then when I left and I would run into people, they'd be like, oh, so are you still over there? And I'm like, no. And then be weird. They're like, well, what are you doing now? And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I work for myself. Well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a life coach. And people don't really get it. And even like my friends didn't really get it.
Yeah.
And it was this really weird thing to try to explain because a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't need that. Mm-hmm. It's like, we probably could all benefit. You know, you've teamed up with people at some point in your life, whether you realize it or not, and they have helped you. They've walked you to like a certain part, and then they left for whatever reason. I mean, it's supposed to happen like that. And, you know, you're kind of like trying some things out on your own, and then it's almost like you meet up with someone else. But whenever you get like any kind of coach, a business coach, a life coach, you're just being intentional about moving forward and getting really clear on your goals.
Well, I can attest to that. Whether whether it's a life coach or a business mentor, they're all kind of the same thing. We've been in total situations often where we outgrow the mentors we have, not in like I've outgrown you, but just like there needs to be a new perspective, or there needs to be somebody who's going to push you to the next level. And when you don't have that, it's really frustrating in your life and in your business because you just want an outside perspective to diagnose it and be straight with you and tell you, this is what you need to do. This is what I see you need to do. Try this. And I think it's going to help you take things to the next level, especially when you're a pusher and you're trying really hard to like, you know, grow quickly or grow a lot. It's nice.
Yeah, you're like, I want to make this happen.
Yes.
How, like, I'm missing something here. I need another pair of eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, it really helps a lot.
So what is it like kind of being able to work for yourself and for your daughter? Like, what are you most proud of to be able to perpetuate to her?
Oh, man, I love it. So I'm super glad I took a lot of my college classes online. I went a lot in class for my associates, but my bachelor's, I did everything but 4 classes online.
Wow.
And I'm not trying to brag or anything like that at all, but it goes to say that I am self-disciplined.
Right.
And I had to learn. Now, I'm not going to lie. There are definitely times I procrastinated to do things, but I did get them done. And I graduated with honors. So I think that led up to this because you can't work for yourself if you can't discipline yourself.
It's true.
And in the beginning, it was a little bit hard. I kind of felt like, oh, gosh, I have all this free time now. So there was lots of lunches with friends and things like that. And then as time went on, I felt like, oh, I don't really feel like I'm being as productive. So I kind of changed the way I did things. And then I kind of went to the other extreme. Mm-hmm. And so I found a balance. It's really good to implement in your day-to-day things that keep you high vibe. Maybe that is lunch with a friend. Maybe it's a walk at the park, you know. Definitely include those things. Yeah. But you need to have a schedule of when you're going to work and make that a habit. But right. I like it because there's sometimes when I will do some work when my daughter's around, just because I want her to see that, you know, I know that I'm home, but I do work. It's just different than like what I used to do. And like most kids now, they love YouTube, right?
Right.
And she likes it. And so some of my stuff is on YouTube. And so it's kind of come up on the screen, and she's like, oh, Mom, you're on YouTube. And she gets so excited. She thinks I'm like famous. Okay. It's hilarious. And she wants to watch. And I think it's great because one day soon she's going to sit in the audience and listen, because I feel like the message that I have for other women is the same message I have for my daughter. It's the same things I want to teach her. And this just gives me a bigger platform to share it with not just her, but so many other people. And then they get to do the same thing with their kids.
Yeah.
So it's been really, really nice. And it allows me, we have every Wednesday, we have a lunch date. I go to her school, bring her choice of lunch. Yeah. And it's nice. She looks forward to it. She knows for sure Wednesdays are the day. And we just have more freedom to do things. Like I said, we were planning her birthday, and she decided this year that instead of having a party, she'd rather take a trip somewhere. And I was like, I would much rather take a trip than plan a birthday party. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, I'm on board with that.
So that's what we decided to do. And it's like, I can do that. Used to when I would always work the weekend. So it was kind of a pain to ask off. Would I even get off? And then, I'm going to miss all this money if I take off, because that's when it's to be made. And now that's not a worry. I don't have to ask a single person. I don't have to miss any money or any of that.
I love it.
So it's been very rewarding.
That's maybe the best reward right there. I mean, the paying it forward and serving, super awesome. But anything we can do to strengthen that freedom with our family is A-okay in my book. I love that so much.
Yeah, it shows them they can do that too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I like to finish out every interview asking everybody, what makes you a marvelous mom? So if you can sum that up in a couple sentences, what would you say?
That's a good question. We often don't give ourselves credit enough.
No, we don't.
So, what makes me a marvelous mom? I would say I'm a very resilient person. Mm-hmm. And and this is funny that you asked me this right now, because we've had some very rough, personal family things happen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have told me, your daughter's going to be just fine because you're her mom and you're just so awesome with how you talk to her and how you're always there. Yeah. She knows that you're a safe person that she can talk to. You lead by example. I don't lead by do what I say I do kind of thing. And that was kind of like, oh, wow. I mean, if one person would have said it, I would have thought they were just being nice.
Right.
But a lot of people said it, and it was like, I have been through a lot. And since I have, I can explain different things to her.
Right.
In a way, I'm very good at explaining things in a way that she will understand.
I love that. I think that's an amazing answer. And I think I totally can see that in you just from spending 25, 30 minutes with you. So I think she's got a pretty marvelous mom, and she's got some pretty good footsteps to fill. So thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story. It really is such a story of resiliency, and it's inspiring. And I know it's probably inspiring to other mothers who are maybe in your situation or in what used to be your situation. So I hope it's motivated you ladies listening to just empower yourself and make the hard choices that will make you inevitably 10 times happier. So thank you, Staci.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Everybody listening, have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode. As a busy mom who's also running multiple businesses, it's kind of hard for me sometimes to get healthy dinner on the table that my kids will actually eat, which is why I'm obsessed with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is going to help you get inspired again and again, be unstoppable, and eat deliciously with your family. They shop, plan, and deliver your food to your door. They give you step-by-step recipes and ingredients so you can just relax and enjoy all there is to love about cooking and, of course, eating. I know you'll love it as much as I do, so I'm offering you an amazing code. I'm not an affiliate, but this is just the best way to get it for the best price. Use code KIRTYRR to get $40 off your first HelloFresh box.
This is an amazing, amazing deal, and I promise you will thank me later when you taste the food for the first time. So again, go check it out, HelloFresh.com, and use activation code KIRTYRR to get started today.